I'm joined by the festival patron, Stephen-Rea. Stephen, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
So how long have you been involved in TradFest?
I think 14 years.
And Kieran Carson was the reason you got involved, first of all, I think.
No. I was involved long before that, but about 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I got involved in a memorial thing for the poet Kieran Carson, and he was a beautiful poet, but he was also a beautiful flute player. So we invited Guess Who, Matt Malloy, to come and play a bit of flute, and Neil Martin on the cello, and it was such a great experience.
And Neil Martin, of course, is your long-term collaborator when it comes to music and words.
I can't get rid of him. And then we did something for Derek Mahan, who had also, they're all dying, you know. And that was really brilliant. That was with Paddy Glacken, tremendous, and Brian Connor on piano, and Neil Martin and Matt again, and lots of wonderful poems.
So you've really been pushing an open door with TradFest then, saying about this marriage of music and words and about building on it as an aspect of TradFest.
Yeah, I mean, I do really think they are one and the same thing, you know. The poetry is music and the music is poetry, you know, and everybody feels it, and the musicians respond amazingly to it, you know.
And you've worked with Neil Martin on the work of Seamus Heaney and the classics, the Greek classics. So how do you work together? You've got the words, obviously, which are set in the stone of the great writers who wrote them. So I presume he comes up with original music.
Yeah, well, sometimes he'll use airs that we're familiar with. You'll find a place where, you know, he'll go into that for a while, give me a rest. But then I love him being there to not so much comment, but to include himself in the projection of the story, of the language. It's very liberating.
And does that work? Like, do you rehearse and then you have a show, or is there a bit of improvisation during a performance?
We would always include improvisation, you know. But I mean, we'd have little cues, like I'd say, okay, I'll say 2 words, and then then you start playing, and I'll talk with you. It's great fun, you know. I mean, he's a very brilliant musician.
So the seeoct is the project you have for this TradFest, and it's wise as in a sea,
yeah,
in Irish, and it's about bringing music and words together. So you have some modern day poets, and then you have some traditional musicians, very very adventurous traditional musicians.
Oh yeah, they are. I mean, these are they are very modern musicians, you know. I did read a Mahan poem with Louise Mulcahy. She's out of this world, you know. And a while ago I did a thing with Leisha Kelly and Tiernan O'Dinkin, the piper. And the standard of musicianship at this point seems to me to be out of this world, you know.
Sasha Turfus, that's a fantastic poem, Home.
It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's such exciting work, isn't it, Stephen, coming from all these wonderful new poets?
Oh, and yeah, it's fantastic, and the wonderful musicians as well. You see, it will work. It'll be brilliant.
Natalia, yeah, we might ask Stephen. Is it a bit disconcerting the first time out? You know, if you're used to just reading poems and then suddenly there's music behind you.
Well, you have to say, don't play so loud when it comes to that bit, or you might say, just stop so I can let these 3 words breathe on their own. You do have to be sensitive. It can't just work with. But believe me, Louise Mulcahy is sensitivity personified, and
Yes.
you'll have a ball. She will lift you and carry you. You know, that's the great thing.
So, Natalia, one going to be part of the Stephen-Rea event, if I may call it that, Saiocht. And Friday is the Friday before a very important anniversary at the weekend. That's the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday.
That's right. Yeah, and actually, I thought it was great to hear Natalia's poem there because it was so political, activism. And Thomas Kinsella wrote a poem in response to the first Bloody Sunday called Butcher's Dozen, and he got a lot of stick because it was a political response, and I just think it's great that the poets are doing this, and he had anger, and so I'll read a few lines of Butcher's
That
Dozen.
would be lovely.
I went with anger at my heel through bogside of the bitter zeal. Jesus, pity. On a day of cold and drizzle and decay, a month had passed. Yet there remained a murder smell that stung and stained. On flats and alleys over all it hung. On battered roof and wall, on wreck and rubbish scattered thick, on sullen steps and pitted brick. And when I came where 13 died, it shrivelled up my heart. I sighed and looked about that brutal place of rage and terror and disgrace. Then my moistened lips grew dry. I had heard an answering sigh. There in a ghostly pool of blood, a crumpled phantom hugged the mud. Once there lived a hooligan. A pig came up and away he ran. Here lies one in blood and bones who lost his life for throwing stones. More voices rose. I turned and saw 3 corpses forming, red and raw from dirt and stone. Each upturned face stared unseeing from its place.
Stephen-Rea reading from Thomas Kinsella's Butcher's Dozen. Stephen-Rea, I think you wanted to say about one of the other poets you're going to be reading on the night.
Oh yeah, she's a wonderful poet and a wonderful harpist as well. Emily Cullen. She lives in Galway, and she handed me a book of her poems, and I just think she combines both of what we're doing on Friday.
Well,